Okay, look. This is just a story. That's all it is. I don't think I've told it on my blog. I mentioned it on my last video I made, maybe, depending on how this stuff all comes out. But as you can see, my very active Instagram page, I don't even remember when this happened. Oh, I can't find out because I'm not logged in. Womp, womp, womp. Anyway, I was in Canada, in Montreal, so I'm talking about this story right here. This is the whole thing. I'm in Montreal, and I have to fly out at like 6 a.m. International flight, of course, because I'm American and I'm in Canada, not Canadian. I'm in Canada. I know how to say that word. And so it's super early on a Saturday morning. Like, I think I call an Uber to pick me up about 4 o'clock. I was in downtown Montreal. In downtown Montreal, the Ubers won't come exactly where you're at. They have little meeting points. They treat them more like taxis than Ubers. And I was at this place. I really don't know what it is. I found out in this story, I'll explain, that it was called the Atrium. And it was just right across the street from my hotel. It wasn't a long walk at all. It wasn't cold or anything. I was dressed in shorts and a t-shirt, so I'm painting a picture here. It wasn't wintertime. It was in the middle of summer. And literally, like, the bars had just let out, so that's the reason why I'd reserved an Uber the night before to pick me up. So I got there way too early, and I'm waiting on it. And I'm in this big city. I'm downtown. I'm American, right? So city, downtown, late at night, normally not the place you want to be. But Montreal is a whole different experience. It's not like a U.S. city where you got to worry about like getting shot at. So I'm there, and I am trying to track my Uber, on the app. I'm following her around and everything, and it's coming. It's on its way. But I'm surrounded by big buildings all around me and stuff, so I really wasn't sure, like, exactly where it would be. So a car starts to pull up to me. I looked down. It wasn't my Uber because it didn't match the color, but I thought that app may have messed up or something. So I go up to it, and the guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's got this thick, like, South African accent, and I'm like, I'm waiting on my Uber. He's like, so you don't need a taxi? And then I realize, oh wait, this is a taxi. It's got the little thing on the top of it, but the lights were turned off on it, so I couldn't see it. And I'm like, yeah, that I'm waiting on an Uber. He's like, Uber's garbage. Get a taxi, and then drives off. I was like, well, that's one way to live your life, but whatever. I'll just stick with Uber. So finally my Uber gets there. I show up, and we're going down the interstate heading to the airport. It's about a 20-minute drive, maybe. There wasn't no traffic, so it's pretty quick. And we're going along, and all of a sudden the interstate gets rough. And it's not really that big of a deal that it gets rough, because the interstate's always being worked on between downtown Montreal and the airport. If you've ever been, it's just always... I've never been, and it's not been being worked on. It's just that way. So I figure we just hit a spot like the pavement's been torn up or something. And I noticed that my Uber driver looks like that look of like discomfort you get whenever you have to go to the bathroom real bad. You're driving. That's kind of the way he was looking right now. And he was kind of like looking back at me and stuff. And I still pretended like I didn't notice. I wasn't paying attention. And he's like, I think I had a flat tire. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Let's check it out. Well, we stop. We're in the middle of the interstate. We didn't get a chance to make it to the off ramp, and so we're in the middle of this interstate. It's 2 lanes, and it's like concrete barriers on both sides. I've literally only got like this probably 8-inch piece of concrete to stand up on the side of the interstate. And he's like, yeah, it's flat. You gotta cancel this trip. We'll cancel it out, and you just call you another Uber. Well, again, the problem is, right, an Uber isn't going to just pick you up off the side of the interstate. It's difficult to find someone. Plus, I'm, sending messages to my new Uber that I've called, and I've got my bags and everything. I'm just standing there on the side of the interstate, and look, I notice that my Uber driver has an extremely French-sounding name, and I'm thinking, oh no, this guy probably doesn't speak English. And I'm trying to navigate to him. I'm like, hey, look, my last Uber driver broke down. I'm in the middle of the interstate. Will you please come get me? Let's do our thing here. We'll be good to go. Just please, I see you. You're circling around me, because we're in a hole between like the two exits. There's an exit over here. I could see him going, and he made like that loop 3 or 4 times. I'm checking him on the GPS. And I'm like, no, don't get on the off ramp. You've got to come onto the interstate and get me. He has seriously not responded at all. He's being very diligent and not chatting while driving, not texting while driving. It's completely and 100% totally frustrating to me. And then all of a sudden, I see a car coming up. And I was like, uh-oh, who is that? Is this my Uber driver? As I'm walking towards the car, I hear this guy. He just he pulls one of these numbers of, "Hey, I told you Uber was crap." So yeah, he actually it was the guy from the atrium. He's like, "You're the guy from the atrium. I remember you." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was me." He's like, "Just get in, be done with Uber." So I cancel the Uber. I have to pay a fee for that, but it was completely worth it. I was like $5 somewhere around in that neighborhood. It was in Canadian money, and I don't know how to do the math in my head. So I get in, and he thinks this is the funniest thing in the world, because he has managed, in the time that it took me to get an Uber, he has managed to run someone to the airport, turn around, come back, see me on the side of the road, turn around, pick me up, and now he's making his trip back to the airport. So this guy's like basically doubling his money from downtown Montreal to the airport, which I will say a taxi in Montreal is more expensive than an Uber, but I mean, he did get me where I was going, so I don't really know what to say there. So yeah, that's the story of that little post there, and it may show up here and there. I try not to post it too terribly often, because it's a fun story to tell everybody, while we're hanging out. So yeah, just thought I'd let you know. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and like the video.